Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Tiny Blue Games. My name is, of course, Csaw or Chris, and today we're talking about Final Fantasy XIV in 2020. Today we are doing my first ever hard dungeon, the Stone Vigil. This was one of my very favorite dungeons going through the main scenario quests, so I was really excited when I had the option to return. I had quite a few other recommendations for which hard dungeons I should check out, and just before I get into it, hard dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV aren't necessarily super difficult. They're more of a different variation, it seems, of the original dungeon. So, for instance, I believe this is the same structure of the dungeon, just with different bosses and trash mobs and stuff like that. I could be wrong about that. I could be misremembering how you go in through this, but it doesn't seem too different otherwise. Like the final boss is kind of still in the same courtyard area and everything. Maybe there's some different rooms and I'm just not remembering that, but mostly it seems like it's the different bosses that you have to deal with. And I would say some more interesting mechanics as well. I don't think anything was too difficult in this, but there was some different mechanics that I hadn't seen in Final Fantasy up to this point, so that was pretty cool. Now, I've had a lot of people recommend different hard dungeons that I should try now that I'm level 50, and don't you worry, I have all of that added to like a list. Like I have a document on my computer called Things I Should Do Eventually in Final Fantasy XIV, and the list gets bigger quicker than I ever tackle any of these. But whenever you guys leave something in the comments or whisper me in game or something like that, you're like, oh hey, you should definitely do this. I'm like, yep, I definitely should. So I write it on that list and eventually we get to it. It's kind of a comforting thing though, as a content creator, because one of the hardest things to balance is, your ambition to really go through the content, because I'm enjoying the story and I really want to get to the next expansion, and at some points, it's like I kind of want to just skip an episode and post something more exciting. But at the same time, you don't want to do that, and then you get all the way to the end game and you've gone through everything and you're like, oh, now I don't have anything to post. So I think we're miles and miles away from that in this game. And it's really comforting to know that there's even a list that I'm creating of items I want to try out once I kind of have a lull in the content. But yeah. So far, I've really organically found a lot of different things I like doing in this game, and it's been just super enjoyable. That paired on top of trying to make my way through the main scenario quest, it's giving me plenty of things to do whenever I log in. That's never been an issue in Final Fantasy XIV, so don't you worry. But here we are on the first boss. It's kind of a cool dragon. That's not a dragon. It's like a fire-breathing lizard thing. Like, it's like a dragon without wings, That's what I'm going to call it. I've gotten in trouble in this dungeon before for calling things that are dragons not dragons, and things that, I've gotten in trouble with it. But yeah, so he's pretty cool. Nothing too crazy from what I could tell. I didn't look into the mechanics very much for this fight, or for any of the fights in here. I just kind of tried to follow people. I think that's one of the safest bets if you are doing a instance in any game really for the first time without having looked it up. If you can follow one of the DPSers, or if you are a DPS, follow the healer, you'll have a pretty good sense of where to go, unless you choose to follow someone who has no idea as well. But in that case, at least everyone wipes. It's not like it's just you who failed. I don't know if that's better or not, but it's more comfortable at least. So things went pretty well. I think the big thing here was just to make sure you don't stand in front of him when he does his fire breath, because that seems like it would hurt you. I also noticed that we take down a lot of these fights pretty quickly, so I'm not sure if there's some mechanics that we don't get to see, but a lot of the bosses seemed pretty easy. It was actually some of the trash packs that would do a ton of damage to the tank, and I'd have to be kind of ready to jump on it with the heals. I think he did, in some situations, pull more groups than just the one, and because of that, I had to be a little bit more on top of it, but there were certainly some cases where it was like, wow, you're taking some damage. That being said, I'm also not, the best healer. I did get my Ironworks gear, and we are doing this dungeon with that. I haven't upgraded the gear. I got a lot of messages about that in the comments after showing me buying the gear in the last video. People are like, oh hey, it's not over here. Don't worry, you have to actually upgrade the gear. So there you go. I'm one step in the right direction, but I'm never the top of my game. I do need more of the currency, I believe, to upgrade it, at least from what people were saying. So I am actively collecting that, though I would say I don't do probably as many daily roulettes as I should do, which I believe is how you most efficiently get the currency to upgrade. I might be saying nonsense right now, but I have been more focused on just doing quests and stuff like that, so we'll see. I haven't felt underpowered for anything. There's nothing that I've felt like since the very first hard trial, where we were against the Mughal King, I haven't felt severely underpowered for any of the content I've done recently. I think it's all been pretty decent, and it's kind of the situation where I'm like, I'll upgrade things when I feel like I need to, which I know is not a great way to play, but it's been working out pretty well. I should also note, if my voice sounds a little bit weird, I'm doing this maybe a bit earlier in the day than I would, so I apologize for that, but I don't know, I'm just really fixated on what my voice sounds like right now, so I'm sorry if that's the case, but there you go. We're making our way through here. We're doing pretty good. It's the aesthetic of this dungeon. It looks so cool, and like, it's the snow and the castle and the like it's got everything I really, really enjoy. And I think it all plays really, really well. We're about to use kind of these cannons here to shoot a dragon out of the sky, which is really cool as well. It reminds me a lot of a fight in World of Warcraft. There was a dungeon in the Wrath of the Lich King expansion where you'd use kind of these cannons with hooks to fire down at a boss as well. So it really reminded me of that as well, which is really cool. I always love when I'm playing any MMO, and I've been doing a lot talking about different MMOs and how they compare to each other. If you've caught any of our Wednesday videos, the most recent one was about character creation, and I just really enjoy seeing what some MMOs probably take from other MMOs and what they try to like completely redo themselves, or what they think is a good system and they kind of just like slightly improve upon it. It's been a very enjoyable time, and I've really enjoyed this series actually on the Wednesday. It's been super, super fun. The one issue is that I went and did Final Fantasy XIV, and I did the character creation for a different character, for a Lalafell, and I kind of regret who I decided to make. Like, don't get me wrong, I love who I am. I love my little cat tail and everything, but I don't know. It's something that might eventually change. We'll see. So this is the second boss I believe we're on. Yeah, second boss. It's actually really good for recording that they do have kind of like the check marks on the side there so I can keep up to date. This guy's really cool though. This is like kind of a really armored turtle. And you have these 4 cannons. So I went and stood by one because it's like 4 cannons, 4 people were probably going to use the cannons. And you would fire it on the turtle, it seems like, because he seems to have a lot of resistance to normal damage. Now, the issue with this, and I think it specifically is something that the healer has to deal with, is that while you're in the cannon, you can't use your regular heal. So what I do is I would try and blast away with the cannon as best I can, but as soon as I saw that someone was getting low, I'd have to get out and I'd have to go and heal, and it would do pretty well. Now, the one advantage I have as a scholar is that you'll notice that I have my pet actually healing me a slight amount without having to get out of the cannon. So that was actually kind of a really, really nice thing here, is that I would be topped up no matter what. And I'd assume one of the bigger fears, certainly when this was probably a bit more of a challenge, was that the healer themselves would die, and then there's not much you can do at that point. So every so often I'd come out of my cannon and try and toss out some heals. I would sometimes have to walk, kind of into the fight to get closer to some of the people, because they're kind of distanced apart that you aren't really able to, heal everyone from the cannon. The other thing I've noticed is when the ads came out, I believe the tank would go and kind of round them up and bring them into the center, and then we could shoot them down with the cannon as well. So it was a very different fight, and I liked that a lot. But you'll notice here, things got a little bit scary. We had ads kind of everywhere, and everyone got pretty low, so I had to jump out, and I had issues jumping out. I'm not sure if there's like an easy button to do it, but I was just kind of like panic clicking things when I saw people get low. You know how it is, like sometimes you even know the mechanics, like what button you're supposed to push, but as soon as things get too scary or like you're like, oh my god, I gotta rush, that's when you'll start making all these stupid mistakes and start like clicking the wrong buttons and you'll panic. Yeah, that's kind of what happened there. We did recover, so don't worry. We're gonna pull this out. But there was a moment there where I was like, oh no, oh no, oh no. But you'll see here we do have the boss focused with our target thing, which helps a lot, actually being able to see the health. And I noticed that it was so low that I'm like, okay, we're just gonna try and spam some DPS with the cannon to get this guy down. The ads do come out and he does kind of a spinny phase here, and he was going for one of the cannon people, and I was like, oh god, this guy's gonna get hit. So I was fairly good at reacting on that. And he's so low here, but we kind of just have to survive one more chaotic encounter with all the ads. And it's definitely a case of like there's nothing going on and you can DPS for a while, and then all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. There's ads, there's AoE, you got to run around with your head cut off, kind of like healing style. But yeah, that's what we like, right? We like chaos in little bursts of chaos. That's always nice. But yeah, so we do defeat it and we push forward into the rest of the dungeon. One of my other things I really enjoy is kind of the fact that there's a snow across your screen whenever you're outside or like in outer areas, and then it'll kind of go away a little bit when you're inside. Like they've done a really nice subtle touch of making it feel cold in different places. Like I definitely feel the temperature of this place while going through, which is something that you don't always get when you're in a dungeon in one of these games. Like sometimes it'll just not really click together, and I think all the little effects here, like the lighting, the sounds, the snowflakes, all of it is clicked together to give a really nice aesthetic. You'll notice that we are, it says we're level 50. In the actual real world, I think I'm like level 53 now. I've definitely noticed doing some of the main scenario quests that I don't get very much XP from doing the quests anymore. It very much feels like, and this is obviously the case, that I've kind of gone past the expansion's level point, and I'm doing quests that are reduced experience because of that. Like if you're playing World of Warcraft, and I'm sorry I keep referencing that game, but it's hard to play an MMO and not just compare it to another one, and it's never saying one's better than the other necessarily. It's just how things are handled differently. But in World of Warcraft, when you would go past an expansion point, say you got to and it's kind of challenging to even remember how they do it now. I think it's level 60 or is it 50 with the base game, and then you would go to the first expansion, which is the Burning Crusade, and you actually get to choose between the Burning Crusade and the Wrath of the Lich King. You get to choose which expansion you go to now, which I think that system itself is even going to change in the next expansion, so we're not going to get too bogged down with that. But once you got to a high enough level, say it is 60 for some reason, once you got to 60 and you started, like, you kept doing the 1 to 60 expansion content, like you did that and you kept doing the quests to get to like 61 or something like that, the amount of experience you get would be significantly lower. And it really feels like that. Whereas in World of Warcraft, when that happened, you'd have to stop where you are and move to the next expansion to get better experience. In this situation though, you really you have to finish the main scenario quest. So you're kind of going through these quests, and it feels a little bit unfortunate because you don't get quite the reward from it. And you're just, more than anything, I'm just super excited to get to the next expansion and start enjoying that. So I don't know, that was a very long-winded way of saying that, but that's how I feel. So we are on the last boss here, and there's some pretty interesting attacks here. I haven't confirmed this, but I don't know if he has a regular like aggro pool or if he just kind of like lobs attacks at random people. It also could be the fact that there are 2 bosses eventually, and there's someone's gonna have to like get hit by someone. But like there was definitely some attacks that would come after me every so often, and they would charge at some of the random DPS. Like this fight could easily get out of hand if you let it get out of hand. I think, like, if you weren't paying attention about your own positioning and the boss came and gave you a good swipe or charged into you, you could definitely get hit, especially if both of them happen to land on you at the same time. So I'm not sure if like it's you know, just that there wasn't as much aggro here, or is it the fact that there is the 2 bosses and it just obviously makes things a little bit more challenging to tank? But I did enjoy coming into this not really knowing what to expect. It was kind of a surprise, and a few people, people are very split down the middle about this in the comments. People either say, yes, look up the mechanics and like really know what you're doing, or number 2, come into these because you're not doing the hardest type of this content, so come in and have it be a surprise and let that add to your first time experience. So I'm kind of going to do a mix myself, and do some of them one way, some of them the other way, because I do enjoy both, and I think both of them have their positives and their negatives for sure. But yeah, this was the first hard dungeon. I really enjoyed it. I'm very happy that I chose this one, but there are a lot of other dungeons that I'm super excited to see a different path in. But yeah guys, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next one.